It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with financial advisors Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to another episode of Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. Thanks for being with us. My name is Mike Bernard. I am your host. I'm also one of the certified financial planners. Here with me in the studio, my business partners and friends, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory.
How's this for a deep philosophical question? What is financial success to you? Maybe some of you consider actually that to be more of a math question that you could track your progress towards. Either way, we're discussing financial success and how you can achieve more of it in your life. That's on this episode of The Wise Money Show.
We're getting deep. We are getting deep, but I'm excited for the banter here. We've already had the preamble was pretty good. I'll just tease it out like that. If you have a question for the show, we've got some great questions from fans of the show. Thank you so much for sending those in. We want to hear from you. You can find us online, wisemoneyshow.com. Submit a question right there on the right, and then all over social media as well. Just search The Wise Money Show. You can call or text 574-222-2000. That's 574-222-2000. And then, of course, the YouTube channel is up and rolling as well. You can find us there, wisemoneyradio.com. wisemoneyradio.com. Yes. All right. So, how do you define financial success? I think we'd all define it a little bit differently, but the big idea is we all should be tracking it the same way. So, me and Josh and Kevin, we're students of life itself, and one of the folks that we listen to through a podcast was interviewing someone recently. And the gentleman said one of his rules of life is that everyone acts rationally all the time. And that just seems crazy, right? That actually seems irrational.
To even say
right?
that?
To even say it. And of course, we see people someone's financial life and say, oh, well, there's these, mistakes. I look at my own financial life and say, oh, I must have been acting irrationally because I've made some mistakes. But the idea is that, well, we're all acting at any moment based on all the information that we have. So that must be rational. I don't know. I think smart minds might disagree with that. But anyway, with that backdrop, really, how should someone be acting to achieve financial success? How would you define financial success?
Yeah. And is everyone striving for it too?
Yeah.
I personally think that financial success can't be defined outside of, first of all, setting some sort of a target or a purpose for life in general. Because I believe money is just a tool to help you achieve certain things. And if that's a really fun weekend or a great vacation or an amazing roof over your head, great car you're driving, maybe that's how you define success, or maybe that's just the outward appearance of it. I don't know. But to me, I want to encourage people to begin by defining what a successful life looks like. And financial success then could be defined as how do you use money or material resources to achieve that successful life?
Yeah, I think when as we look at financial success, I think one of the most important things to do is to have something concrete, to have something definitive, something that lets you be objective and not emotional. Because when we go into the subjective realm of success, it can really mess with our minds. Because I was walking on the beach in Florida probably 20 years ago with a guy that I would consider to be very successful, and he pointed up at the high rise and he said that the penthouse just sold. It's not finished being built yet, but it just sold for a couple $1 million, and he knew who bought it. And he said, the interesting thing about financial success is you think you're up the ladder a pretty good ways, and then you look up and there's 16 rungs above you. And it really is. I think the tricky thing about financial success is it could be as elusive as chasing the horizon. So that's why you want to start with, I agree with you, Joshua, defining what would a successful life look like, and then within the context of a successful life, what would financial success look like? And I think as I look at defining financial success, to me it is an emotional outcome. I mean, the emotional outcome is that I'm, for the most part, free of financial worry. And the truth is, you can have a very little money and be free of financial worry, and you can have an absolute ton of money and be overcome with financial worry.
Yeah, that's right.
So there are many paradoxes, and it can be very confusing if especially if you don't spend the time and just kind of run the miles saying, what is financial success? What would success be in my life? What would financial success? And then I start measuring. Now, we know statistically most people don't do that. Because to the extent that they did, we would see different results. We wouldn't have a pending retirement crisis. There's a number of things that are evidences of people not doing that, and that's why we exist, is to help people, to coach them. It's one of the skills that people want to have in their financial skill stack.
One of the things I appreciate about what both of you said is that don't let the world define financial success for you. Right? There's
For sure.
There's a whole bunch of paradoxes that culturally are praised, but financially are probably devastating. And so you get conflicting signs all the time. So if you're trying to achieve financial success the way the world might define it, or the way that you might see it played out in Hallmark movies, or who watches those, or TV shows or commercials or whatever, you might be chasing after the wrong thing. So start internally. What are you called to do? How would you define a successful life? And then really financial success is aligning your resources to help achieve that. One word comes to mind, and I don't want to take us there too quickly. Josh, it looks like you've got a thought, but so often that's just balance. It's defined in a way as balance.
Yeah, that could be as well. And I was actually thinking of some brand new clients that came in just in the past week or two, who I couldn't help but to sense that they were trying to just avoid fear and mistakes and pain in their financial life. They were almost just petrified of either missing an opportunity or making a misstep, and that's why they were seeking help. And I don't consider that necessarily the absence of failure, the absence of mistakes, the absence of missed opportunities is not necessarily success. But some people might define it that way. They might just say, you know what, I need a coach in my life to make sure that I don't mess this up. Mm-hmm. And I would rather see them turn to the positive side of that and say, not what are we trying to avoid in our financial life, but what are we trying to achieve? And, I agree with everything that you guys have both said, that this really is about using financial resources to achieve the ideal life that you've set for yourself.
Now, here's something interesting. Is financial success living your best life today? Is it wholly that? Is financial success wholly preparing for living a great life tomorrow? Wholly that. Is your best financial life living completely for yourself? Is your financial life best as living completely for others? And other than that last one, you look at any of those extremes. Let's take the easiest one, which is, we're all guilty of this in some way, and we've seen, you guys, we've seen clients that have come in that are either really focused on, hey, I'm just trying to live the best life today. I don't need to really prepare for tomorrow. And we've got others who are just sort of miserable today because everything is about, well, how can I have a better financial life tomorrow? And that's where you've got to sit down with a coach, and you need to be doing comprehensive financial planning to figure out, well, what is the life that you're truly trying to live? And then how can you find balance and success within that? So we're going to pick that back up. as well as then, even though we all might have a different financial money view, Josh calls it worldview, how do we track our progress? That should be uniform. That really shouldn't. We're going to tell you how we do it. So that and more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Okay, YouTube, thanks for being with us. This is the Wise Money Show. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe to the channel. Turn on that bell for notifications so that you're made available every time we drop a new episode. And then also for any future videos or other videos that we do, next wise steps or other announcements. So thanks. Leave a comment below. We'll get back to you. And make sure you hit that thumbs up, share, all that sort of stuff. Thank you. Okay. I think we dropped the gloves before we pressed record. And gosh, we just all loves and hugs and
all on the same page.
You guys
Life
are so
is good.
nice. So, although it looks like Kevin was that Hangman?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
What
I
is
just
that?
Playing Hangman
well,
with
I mean,
yourself?
so Jordan Peterson was talking about alcohol, and it's the same. You have the same kind of question about when you look at finances as far as it relates to impulse control, and why would someone struggle with alcohol? It's kind of the same reason why someone would struggle with finances. It's that I want it all today and I don't have a vision for tomorrow, because if my current self can't find itself in my future self, then eat, drink, and be merry, because tomorrow we die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because I think that face app or whatever, that one that takes your picture and makes you look old.
Mm-hmm. The aging booth.
That has a tremendous impact on today's behavior when you see yourself fast forward 30 years, because then you can find yourself, like you can sort of envision, yeah, you will, that will be you. And what does that you really care about? What would that you tell today's you? So we did that. If you're listening and maybe are newer to the show, we actually did that on a show, and Kevin,
It was traumatizing.
it was while we're talking about it. Basically, there's some research that came out that said people that saw a picture of themselves sort of fast forward a couple decades ended up making better financial decisions than today. And so some testing, some group study. And so Kevin, while we're on the air, did it, and it was an interesting picture.
And listen, if you're not tech savvy, you don't need to get the app. Just go to church or go to the mall or go someplace and look at the people that are older than you, mm-hmm. and say, because I remember sitting in church and there was a couple in their, I think they were in their early 90s, and they were small and hunched over, and over time you kind of shrink a little bit because your back compresses and all stuff. Ugh. So, but Lori said, look at that couple. We're going to look like that someday. And I thought, no way. But yeah, someday, Lord willing, if we live long enough, we will look like that in our anyway.
All right, we got to get going.
Yeah, so there's still a lot to say here.
Yeah, we'll pick it up, but then hopefully we can start turning to, okay, net worth and tracking that. Okay. How do you define financial success? And really, is your financial success woven together with the success and future life that you want to be living? Hopefully it is. And that really is partly the role of your certified financial planner. So thanks for being with us today. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. My name is Mike Bernard. Here with me in the KFG studios, as always, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. I want to say thanks to the attorneys at South Bank Legal as well as First State Bank for sponsoring the content of today's program. And then lastly, for more content on the Wise Money Show, you can find us online, wisemoneyshow.com, and then all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there too. Okay, so the big idea is we're all making financial decisions each and every day. Hopefully those financial decisions are leading each of us closer to how we would define financial success. Now, the big idea is, even though we might all have a slightly different opinion of what financial success really is, we should be tracking our progress the same way. Well, we're going to get into that because one of the ways that you should be tracking your progress is really you should be doing right now. Around the beginning of the year is an ideal time to do that. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But what else, guys, would you say to help someone better define financial success?
Well, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I as I think about financial success, I do think that there's some work that needs to be done, and I've already said this, but you really need to do the work to define what financial success looks like. And whether you're in your 20s or 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, wherever you are, that will the mix of how you live and what kind of effort and energy you put towards that should be changing, and it should be adjusting over time. You know, it's very interesting. My son is in the Army at Fort Bragg, and when he first got to Fort Bragg, he called me and he said, "Dad, you wouldn't believe it. Everyone's driving a new Charger, a new Dodge Charger."
Muscle.
Which, yeah, is a pretty cool car.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, that's interesting. And, you know, these guys are airborne, so they make a couple extra bucks every month. And so they make decent money. And if you want to spend all your money on a vehicle, you can do that. So a couple of days later, he called me and he said, "Dad, there's an ad on the radio that says for $149 down, you can drive a Charger. And if you don't have $149, you just need to come up with it within the first 6 months."
Oh, my goodness.
So,
Wow.
So basically, the interesting thing that I told him is I said, it seems curious that someone would go and impoverish themselves or imprison themselves to get a sense of financial well-being or a sense of a status symbol or something like that. Because I can tell you, having been in the Army myself, you don't need transportation. Everything that you need when you're in the Army is provided for you. 3 hots and a cot, and there's a bus system on every post and everything else. So it's very interesting as he's watching this, because one of the things that when you look at financial success, if you are willing to write down some objective measures, because you say, hey, what do I want my life to look like? Within the context of that, what is financial? What needs to happen financially for me to achieve that ideal life?
Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. That's the right question.
And then where did I start the year at in 2019, and where did I end the year at in 2019? And most people struggle with that self-accountability.
Yeah, that discipline. That's exactly right. Good segue. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's in my humble opinion, you know, my wife has observed that I don't do anything by myself. And so it's actually much easier to do that with a coach, because it's way easier to look at things and say, "Oh man, that was terrible. I really blew it. I should have done this. I shoulda, coulda, woulda." But to have someone sitting there next to you saying, "Actually, that was really positive. That was a great step, and maybe you're not seeing the fruit from that, you know, this year, but we're going to see this in the next 2 or 3 years, and you're going to be amazed by your results."
You know, we just did a show about how to set financial goals. And my mind is going back to that show because in that show, similar to today's show, we were talking about defining what you want out of your life and then setting your goals in alignment with it. And all of those goals that you're trying to achieve, they have varying degrees of alignment with your own mission and your own focus. Some are just pleasure, and others are maybe more aligned with what your big picture vision, your purpose of your life might be. If that's defined as being a blessing to the people in your life that you love the most, Maybe you have certain goals that are aligned with blessing the people in your life. And then there's others that are maybe a little bit more outward facing, like the car example that Kevin was giving. But in any of those goals, if they are so important to the achievement of the life that you're trying to achieve, then it's worth tracking progress towards them. And we've said, many times on this show that financial progress should be able to be seen in your life. It should be visual. You should be tracking it in a way that you're encouraged from year to year or from decade to decade, whatever time period you're looking at. But if you have goals that are in alignment with your vision, like maybe one of your goals is to help launch your kids from the nest and put them on a path towards really achieving their purpose in life. You might say college is one of the methods that you're going to use to support that particular objective. And if college planning is a goal of yours, then there's a certain amount of financial resources that are going to be required to achieve that. And one of the tools that we use to be able to just see all these goals in one place or see your whole financial life in one snapshot is a balance sheet, a personal balance sheet. Sometimes we call it a net worth statement because it's basically showing on paper all of the assets that you're in control of and then comparing it to the debts, the liabilities that you owe to other people. And when you net those two out, you get a bottom line net worth number that needs to be growing over time, not because the net worth growing is the success you're trying to achieve, but the net worth growing helps fund the success you're trying to achieve.
That is a delicate distinction, but absolutely accurate. And so this is the big idea. However you define financial success, this is one of the habits. This is one of the disciplines that you use to monitor your progress. It's building out that net worth or that balance sheet, and you should be doing it now, right around the beginning of the year. We do it for all of our clients in the first quarter, and so you're gonna, or the first half of the year, I should say. But this is the thing: you don't build that with the outcome being pride or embarrassment, because just as author and thinker Jordan Peterson says, don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself today to who you were yesterday. And so this is the big trick. You don't build that net worth statement to then say, well, how do I compare to others? No. You build it to say, how did I compare to myself a year ago? And that's the other little secret sauce here, is you need to be building this net worth on a sheet where it's right next to the one you did last year, which is right next to the one you did the year before that, and year before that, and year before that, so you can actually see your progress.
Excel is great for that. And actually, this is a great time. This would be a great day to do it if you've never done it. And you should have some statements already. Some of your year-end statements have already come in, and you can take a look at what the balances of those accounts are. And on that statement, it'll actually show you what was the balance at the beginning of the year, what's the balance at the end of the year. And so you'll have some sort of a sense for what kind of progress you've made in those various accounts. And then you start assembling it. And if you are a perfectionist, most people don't do this because they want to do it perfectly, and so they never do it.
Yeah. So this is one of the things that your certified financial planner, if that sounds like drudgery to you, this is one of the things your certified financial planner should be doing for you and helping you, because they want to have that perspective, provide that perspective to you, and then provide the coaching to say, well, it seems like we're off trend here, or look at this great progress we've made. We're grinding it out each day, but look at the great progress over time. So a little bit more to come here, and then a couple great questions that we're going to hit. So lots more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. All right. So
I told Joshua, because then a couple of days later he calls and says, hey, Dad, those Challengers actually look pretty good.
They do. But here's the thing. So it's all about balance. Mm-hmm. But when you make it objective and you're tracking your net worth and comparing it side by side, you do need a vehicle. and you want to, I mean, I'm assuming you'll want to have a nice vehicle that, you enjoy driving or whatever within your financial means. But then if you're tracking it on your net worth, that value is going down. That is, if the big idea is to make, tangible financial progress, vehicles depreciate in value.
Yep.
So that one of all others, like that one erodes your net worth when you're tracking it over time. At any given moment, you'd look and say, okay, well, that's where I'm at. But no, if you're doing the compare to yourself game, you're realizing that car is not driving you where you want to go.
Nice one. Good
Thanks.
time.
That was terrible, actually.
Yeah.
I got a chuckle out of Lindsay.
Well, I told him, I said, I just happened to see, and I don't really look for this stuff. It tends to look for me. But I said, I saw a Hellcat, which is a 700 horsepower Dodge, and it used for $50,000. And I told him, I said, if I was going to get something like that, I would want to just get the Hellcat. But then once you get the Hellcat, then the games begin, right?
Yeah.
Like how do you improve it and make it even better?
So I was out to dinner with some friends last night, and one of them has the nicest truck that I've ever seen, and it's new, and he decided to go with that because he's going to give it to his son. He's currently 8, and so 10 years from now, it'll be 18. Right? There's all these things. I'm going to drive it till the wheels fall off. Well, and then he told me, but have you seen those new Tesla trucks? And I'm like,
goodness.
The bulletproof ones?
Right. I've seen it. But then he said, so I don't know, I might need to go with an electric truck here in a couple of years. And he told me, so that again, the financial success or your desires financially, they are kind of like the horizon, Kevin. That was very well said. But he said that truck can go 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. It would beat a Porsche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And its towing capacity, like the torque that thing has.
Yeah, the
is
torque
crazy, and
is it's a little nuts.
We just got a new minivan, as you guys know, and I've already been thinking about how I can modify it and soup it up and turn it into a Suburban, actually. So it will no longer be a minivan.
I thought you were going to say put some, paint some flames on the side of it.
Anything.
Anything.
If you guys have any ideas, I'm all ears.
Some of those
How do you
bullet
make
hole
it not be a
stickers.
minivan?
Get some of those bullet hole stickers on there. You will make that thing look tough
There
immediately.
you go.
Yes, I like it.
All right.
Can you get a lift kit for a minivan?
If you're listening on YouTube, just link that in the comment below.
Talk to Dave Martin. He can do it for you.
All right.
Okay, so
Let's
what's
get in.
next?
Let's a couple more comments on tracking net worth or tracking other financial goals, and then listener questions, or should we just jump in with listener questions?
Doesn't matter to me.
We could do a little summary or a wrap.
Yeah, let's do a wrap, and then questions. If you're not there, okay, Josh is there. Kevin, I don't know if you're there. I'll link it to you.
Oh, in Slack?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, ready? All right, I plan to pay my mortgage off soon, but I'm still in my mid-50s. What do I do with the money next? Oh, love that question from fan of the show, Scott. We're going to hit that very shortly here. Thanks for being with us. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. My name's Mike. Here with me in the KFG studios, Kevin and Josh. Thank you, Bethel University Adult and Graduate Studies, and Diane Bennett and her Inspired Homes team for making the Wise Money Show possible. Thank you very much. If you're not watching the show on the YouTube channel, I'd encourage you to do so. Check out Kevin's new gear to Korhorn Financial Group sweatshirt. I see those potentially as maybe a question of the week, question of the month giveaway at some point on the YouTube channel. So go there.
like that.
You'll find us. Just search the Wise Money Show on YouTube, subscribe to it, and turn that bell on for notifications so you're up to date on all videos that we post. Okay, let's put the wraps on this. We're talking about how you define financial success. We all might define it a little bit differently. Occasionally, our behaviors actually pull us away from financial success. So it's really important that you start with, what do you want your life to look like? How would you define a successful life? and then work with your certified financial planner. This is why you need comprehensive financial planning, so that you can align your financial decisions to help you live that life. Really, that's the big idea. But then you got to track it. You got to track your progress. You got to look at the objective data. And one of the disciplines right now is to update your personal balance sheet, your net worth. So how else would you guys put the wraps on that before we transition?
Well, I mean, everything you just described is so important because financial success is maybe you had a successful past quarter, or maybe you had a successful past year, but have you achieved financial success? That is a long-term, maybe even lifelong objective as you achieve the life that you're trying to shoot for here. And so it would be really easy to get off track towards any of these goals or that long-term picture, because you're always faced with short-term decisions on how you're going to direct money. And every time you make a decision with dollars in your hand, you're either supporting that life that you're trying to achieve, or maybe you're not, right?
So one of our favorite authors, Jim Clear, right? He says you're casting votes. You're casting votes with each of these small decisions. You're casting votes for who you're going to elect as your future self.
That's right. And you will manage what you measure, right? Stephen Covey says that. And I think that's true in your financial life as well. And if you're trying to achieve financial success, however you define it, you're going to make the decisions that either take you down that path or off that track every single day. And so keeping it in front of you and tracking your progress, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah, I think when I think of financial success, I try to encourage people to think about what they are thinking about. And if your finances occupy very much space at all in your brain, I would encourage you to get some help and get that fixed. So I'm serious, because if you spend, get around someone who talks about money or their money. It's not terribly interesting. So I would say,
but keep listening to the show.
If your mind is dominated by thoughts of how well you're doing, how awful you're doing, just by money, I would try to get free. 2020 needs to be the year to get free, and hopefully you can see that. But I think there's three words that I think of, and two of them kind of mean the same thing. But I think of alignment or congruency. Like my financial life is, and the vision for that fits within the vision for my entire life. And then there's balance. And it's, again, to quote my good friend Mike Bernard, I want balance over my lifetime, not today. So today I might not have perfect balance. Today I might have to figure out a way to enjoy. To me, the best analogy is to think about practicing and playing. Practicing is the preparation. Playing is actually when you get to do it. Mm-hmm. And so I would encourage you to say, hey, 2020, I'm going to build my net worth. I'm going to compare 19 to 20. I'm going to pick one or two financial skills that I may not have and figure out a way to add those to my life. If I don't have a budget, I'm going to make sure I have a budget. And I would, if you've always thought, hey, I probably should have a coach, and I don't, I would run, not walk, to a planner and make sure they're certified and make sure they do financial planning.
Love it. There's one last caveat, because we're on the heels of another year. We have no idea what 2020 is going to bring. Many of the things on your balance sheet you can control, but not all of them. One of, hopefully, the biggest category that you're trying to build on your balance sheet is your investment savings, because those dollars are the ones that are going to appreciate the most over time and help you grow your net worth. You have influence as to what that line looks like, what that number looks like, but you don't have complete control over it. In the short term, you're hustling, you're getting focused on this, you're building your net worth, and then wham, the market goes down a little bit, and you say, now my net worth just went down, or I didn't make progress even though I'm sacrificing today. That's how it's supposed to work. In the short term, that is how it's supposed to work. So just that quick caveat. Okay, Scott, love your question. We actually have several here from fans of the show that I love, and you guys know we get to as many as we can. But Scott's up first, 55 from Mishawaka. No children, single. I plan to pay off my mortgage in February. I'll be debt-free at that time. I have a traditional IRA. Where should I be investing? Annual income is between 130 and 150. I mean, great job on the progress, Scott. I joked once before, if you want to make financial progress, don't have kids. But it's about what you envision your life, right? It's life goals and then align your finances. But that's wonderful, Scott, because that takes discipline, even despite my joking, to make the progress you've made. So, all right, where do you allocate money?
Well, I guess we can maybe imply here that Scott does not have access to a retirement plan at work, or at least that'd be the question that I would be asking. If you're in a similar situation as Scott, where you're coming to the end of the mortgage, or there's something happening in your life where there's going to be new cash flow freed up, one of the advantages of a retirement plan through work is it's a bigger bucket for you to be able to throw money into if retirement is what you're turning your attention to next.
Or if you're just trying to manage your taxes, because single, not many deductions, good income, potentially higher tax bracket, you got to be using all of those tax shelters possible.
That's right. You know, Scott could be creeping into maybe the fourth tax tier, the 24% tax bracket, depending on what kind of write-offs he has available. So when you start getting into higher and higher tax brackets, pre-tax savings for long-term goals like retirement save you money in taxes today by postponing that tax liability out into the future when we presume that maybe you'll be in a lower tax bracket and can have less of a tax hit when it comes time to spend that money.
That's a great question, Scott. It's not an unusual question. A lot of times people either say, where should I be putting my money as far as what type of a structure should I be using, traditional IRA, what have you. And a lot of times people that get to 55 start saying, well, should I be pulling back on risk? What should I do? So there are lots of questions that come in and, at this time in your life. And oftentimes when I'm answering them, I say, well, look, I'm going to sound like a politician because there's not an easy answer.
Right.
And because, again, part of this, and Scott, listen to the first part of this show, part of where you should be investing your money needs to be in alignment with what you want the rest of your life to look like. Because if you want to be retired by 56, where you should put your money is very different than if you want to be retired by 66. And so this is where more context helps us give a more better answer.
More better. But make a list of all those tax shelters available. Make sure you're leveraging all of those. If you're just doing enough into the 401k, if you have one, just to get the match, no, you got to max that thing out. Look at Roth. Look at IRA.
Look at HSA.
Look at HSA. Absolutely. And if you've exhausted all those, it might just be another savings account. So, all right, great question, Scott. We've got another one about something called a variable annuity. We've got that and more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Okay, so we were running out of time in that segment. This is a shorter break. But I almost wanted to bring up the temptation from other financial professionals and Scott's, when they observe Scott's situation, to say annuity, because it would grow potentially tax deferred. I totally disagree. You're single, so maybe it's not as important.
Dude, you want to know what the temptation is? From another financial advisor, if we're in the spirit of poking other advisors in the eye? Life insurance.
Yeah, I wondered if you were going to go there.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a text from a friend.
Well, here's the thing. If this is just bonus content, because I don't think I'm going to put this in the actual show that airs on the radio, but resist that urge if anyone tells you should use a variable annuity. I mean, this might be building your pension. This money might be building a pension for you because there aren't any kids that you'd want to leave this money to. But the fastest way to build up your pension is to go with a diversified portfolio that can be invested. And then in the future, if you turn that into an income stream, great. But don't listen to anyone that says, well, jump on some tax deferral right now and throw that into an annuity because that is the most expensive. We talked about the Tesla truck going 0 to 60 in 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Those types of vehicles, those annuities don't drive that fast.
Well, and so my friend sent me this podcast. What's better, the Roth IRA or the LIRP? The LIRP. What's the LIRP?
Life insurance.
Retirement plan.
Yeah.
And so,
but this is the next question. That is the segue.
Right. So that's a LIRP is a long range reconnaissance patrol. LIRP Ranger. That's the LIRP we want. Okay, so are we gonna pick up and finish? Or are we gonna?
Yeah, let's pick up and finish. There's probably not a ton to say.
Because I think you could say some other tools that might be quickly brought out if you go to a financial professional that you might want to.
Yeah, and that actually is a segue. So we that's a good way of putting it. So, all right. Thanks for being with us today. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. My name's Mike. Here with me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. If you've missed anything and haven't caught up on the YouTube channel, but you like podcasts, guess what? The Wise Money Show is there as well. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you'll find us there. Just search the Wise Money Show. I'd encourage you to subscribe to it, and so that you're notified every time we drop a new episode. Even rate the show and leave a comment there as well. Appreciate it. All right, we're into a great question from Scott. He's 55 from Mishawaka. No kids. He's single. He's about to pay his mortgage off. He's got a good income, 130 to 150 grand. Hey, where do I put that money? First idea is make sure you're capturing all tax shelters. But there's just one other thing that I'd want to make you aware of, is that if you talk to any variety of financial professionals about this question, Scott, there's possibly going to be a tool that's introduced that we would encourage you to stay away from. And because of your situation, trying to get tax-deferred growth might be an objective. And one way to do that is using a tool called an annuity. We've got another question coming up about one of those here in just a second, but is to use an annuity. However, we would discourage you from using that, despite there would be some potential tax savings on the growth, simply because of the cost and lack of flexibility with those types of tools. I just would steer clear of those.
Yeah, an annuity is a tool, and there are actually certain annuity contracts that are good contracts. So a lot of times I'm hesitant to even bring up the A word in a conversation with clients, but there are times where that is appropriate, where they need certain guarantees or other things. But it is a product that's sold, not a product that's bought.
And I look at the guarantees. I mean, in your situation, Scott, Josh mentioned, a little more context that would be helpful, or Kevin mentioned that. But yeah, maybe some other context might reveal that, no, some of those guarantees would be beneficial, but at the surface, no, I don't think so.
Well, and certainly not as an accumulation tool.
Right.
That's where my mind was going. We often think of a variable annuity or different types of annuity products as an income-generating tool when you get into retirement. But if you still have another 10 years to go, Scott, before you want to retire, maybe it's even 15 years for all we know. If you've got a long period of time where you still are in the accumulation and growth phase of building your portfolio for retirement, there's just better tools out there that don't have the layers of fees that drag down that performance and really slow up your progress. So if you said you were going to retire a little bit earlier and you wanted to delay drawing Social Security as long as possible, it may even make sense for you to be building up some resources that are not inside of tax shelters so that you can have maximum flexibility on when you access that money and basically kind of plan ahead for how you're going to live during those years when you don't have a paycheck and you haven't yet started Social Security either.
Agreed.
And so I would encourage you, Scott. I got a friend of mine shared a podcast with me, and this one was titled, "What's Better, the Roth IRA or the LIRP?" And LIRP stands for Life Insurance Retirement Plan. And so, Scott, if you're single, your need for survivor income, I'm assuming, probably isn't there. But in a vacuum, any financial decision can make sense. Just like think of your own self, Scott. You probably can rationalize or justify any behavior, especially if you don't tell any of your friends about it. And you can kind of do the same thing financially, especially if someone is trained. Because I actually listened to this podcast, and there are people that are being convinced that one of the best tools to save for retirement is a life insurance policy. And life insurance is a tool, so I'm not saying you shouldn't have life insurance, but I would be careful about what specific purposes you need the life insurance to accomplish for you, and then what you're willing to pay or what you're willing to sacrifice in order to achieve that.
Okay, so that is a great segue here. We got a question. This is now a couple months ago, but from an anonymous listener, and here's what he or she asked. About a variable annuity about 3 years ago. Are they bad if you haven't already maxed out your 401k or IRA?
Great question. And, I'm going to piggyback on what Kevin was just saying about life insurance. A variable annuity is a tool, and it's a tool that you would want any independent financial professional that is serving you and advising you. You want them to have the maximum array of potential tools at their disposal so that the right tool can be used for the right job. Often, though, we see variable annuities being used for the wrong job. We've often seen clients come in, they've got a handful of variable annuities, and they have regret written all over their face. Mm-hmm. After having them for a few years, they look back and they say, this thing doesn't seem like it's really growing much. And unfortunately, we have to kind of help them peel back layers of the onion and understand exactly what they have. And we can, pretty quickly diagnose, well, here's why it's not really growing much. Even though you're taking a healthy amount of risk with this thing, if it has the drag of too many layers of expense, expenses that maybe are buying some wonderful guarantees for you that maybe would be important down the road but aren't as necessary right now. Unnecessary expense we often refer to as waste, right? Mm-hmm. And if you are wasting money within those investments, then it makes me at least think, before you get yourself into a variable annuity, I would make sure that you've considered all your options and you fully understand these complicated products.
Yeah, and so thank you, Anonymous, for your question. I think it could be a great thing, but there's no way of knowing because it's really going to be based on what your age is and what money did you use to do it. If I'm using a variable annuity for an accumulation tool, again, I'm probably going to be a little bit skeptical that might be the best thing. But if you bought it within the context of a financial planning relationship where the process determined the solution instead of the product determining the solution, because there are some folks out there that call themselves financial advisors. They do a financial plan. They look at they walk you through a process, and in that process, the products kind of raise their hand and say, pick me.
That's because you're a financial planner. One of their key roles is to be an educator for you. They should be teaching you that a variable annuity is an investment that you dump money into, and it is a tax shelter. It's going to grow without being taxed along the way, and when you get to retirement, then you're going to pull the money back out, and you're going to pay tax on the growth, but not the original money that you put in. Now, they would also be pointing out the negatives and telling you that this money is tied up for a period of time. There might be a 7-year or a 10-year period where you can't access that money without getting hit with some sort of a surrender penalty. But they also need to be comparing it to another tool. You know, if you mentioned that you have not been using the 401k or the IRA to its full capacity, what about a Roth IRA too? You know, rather than putting money into an account and letting it grow and eventually pay tax on the growth, why not put it in an account that will grow tax-free forever? Mm-hmm. I like that a whole lot better. And anyone who's advising you on a variable annuity and not also talking to you about a Roth IRA, I think is not doing a thorough enough job of advising you.
So again, Anonymous, we don't know your situation, but to be not necessarily the devil's advocate, but the A-word advocate, if that was a chunk of money that you had sitting there and you put it into an annuity that's going to give you a guaranteed income stream 10 years from when you started, and that aligns perfectly with the Social Security that you're going to get, your pension, all these other things, hey, that might be a great thing. So don't listen to every person on the radio who might say an annuity is a horrible thing. Right. In your situation, if we knew more, we could tell you.
Yeah. Great question, though. It really is. And like Josh said, we do see a lot of people who come in with some tools and then they say, I'm not sure this is really doing it for me. So, again, you got to make your financial decisions in the context of a financial plan. So that is all the time we have for today. Thanks for being with us. On behalf of Kevin Korhorn, Josh, Gregory, myself, and all of us at KFG, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group.
Securities offered through Silver Oak Securities, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through KFG Wealth Management, LLC. Doing business as Korhorn Financial Group. KFG Wealth Management, LLC and Silver Oak Securities Incorporated companies are unaffiliated.